What's up, Team Starlight? Today we are going to be making a fun tier list. We're going to be ranking every single relevant Edison format deck, or I guess like the ones that we could remember, every single Edison format deck in terms of how fun they are to play, from S tier being extremely fun to D tier being boring, one trick, meh, like, just like the I fall asleep watching you play this. And today we
Yes.
got most of the Team Starlight crew here. Declan and Albert will be joining to give their opinions, especially on the decks that they play the most. I play a lot of the more janky stuff, but are we mostly judging this based on how boring they are to play as, or also how boring they are to play against?
I'm coming at it from the angle of like this is totally subjective and my interest in playing the decks. And so like obviously we're not the fun police. If you enjoy the decks that we put in D tier, that's your prerogative. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not allowed to have fun, but this is just our opinions. I guess it'll be our like weighted opinions because we obviously don't all agree on what we think is fun to play necessarily.
Definitely. Like, there's definitely some decks here that we're gonna have some disagreements on, and we're doing this off the cuff. We have a little bit of an idea of where we want some things to be, but there might be some arguments and stuff. How are we gonna start with this? We're just doing this in alphabetical order. We're doing this. I mean, the order here is so random.
Yeah,
So
I think if you just want to talk about a deck, you can just call it out, but we could just start like I don't know, like we can just pick Amaryllis to start.
yeah,
What do you
let's
guys
do
think about
Amaryllis.
Amaryllis?
If I'm being honest, Amaryllis feels very unsolved in a way. It hasn't seen many results more recently, and I think any deck that isn't solved already does not belong in D tier because it allows for exploration, it allows for growth, and it allows for a little bit of different ways you can play the deck. Ultimately, the strategy has like started off as like more of a burn strategy from Carpath and eventually became this more controlly, really aggressive milling type deck. I find its strategy to be pretty fun and unique in this format, and I like both playing as the deck because I like plants. I really do enjoy plants. I think plants are very dynamic, and Titanial is such a house. Playing against it doesn't feel like annoying. Like it can suck sometimes because you might just have a bad matchup in Amaryllis or something. It doesn't feel like the worst deck to play into either. So I would probably put it somewhere in A or high B.
That's not too far off what I thought. I was thinking in B tier, and so I don't mind putting it either at the top, like right in the middle as being our barometer, and maybe we can move it up. But yeah, I think milling is fun. I mean, that's just subjective, but I think milling is fun, so I like that part of it. And I know Marcos, you're a plant aficionado, so like you're gonna be biased towards this deck. So I feel like sticking it in the middle, and then maybe we can go up or down depending on how things shake out. But this is
Oh
sort of like a
yeah.
good like middle to ground.
It's not even my favorite plant variant, but my favorite plant variants aren't even on here. Like I'm more of a general, like I think Amaryllis is the worst part about plants, which is probably why I'd put it in B, because I do think it like kind of warps the plant strategy in a way that feels worse. And you'll notice like more recently, more non-Amaryllis plant decks have been doing better than Amaryllis. So like I feel like I would, if the plant deck was here, like just a general plants that wasn't Gigavise, wasn't Amaryllis, I'd probably put it in like A tier. I do think plants are just fun. But Amaryllis is a solid, still a solid, pretty good all arounder. Like in, I think B tier is fair. We
Okay.
can go next into Hero Frogs. That's more you, dude. Let me know what your vibes are for this.
So I think Hero Frogs in its truest form, which is like 4 or 5 monarchs, and now I guess water art is sort of like its truest form, and just, slamming miracles, slamming monarchs. I don't find it extremely invigorating. Maybe that's shocking to people, but that's probably why, like, that's why I never play it, basically. Like, I only really ever play Dark Hero Frogs anymore. And I'm counting this as like real Hero Frogs because I think Dark Hero Frogs is like way more fun, way more combo-y, but I'm more of a combo player. But I still think you need to be really skilled with this deck and skilled with frogs in general to see success. But I do think the play pattern can just be like slam a Monarch, slam a Miracle Fusion. And if you think that that's fun, then that's your prerogative. But for me, I'm kind of like also like down to stick this in B tier.
Oh man, I would put it in like C. And let me explain why. I think that there's a more linear path. Not like obviously it's not no deck here is truly linear. Like maybe Blackwings is the most, but Hero Frogs, if you're talking more specifically like the Fraser Smith deck that it's been topping, or there's obviously differences to a lot of them, but more recently with the innovation of water art, I find the strategy to just be like really frustrating to play against. And I imagine playing as feels like kind of lame. Like it has like a more lamer approach now that people are slapping water arts into it, and
Mm-hmm.
I just find its like entire game plan to be just kind of repetitive. I can't imagine myself being like a Hero Frog aficionado because like even when I played it a few times, I was like, ah, this got very boring really quick for me at least.
Yeah.
I think like it's not D, like it's nowhere near D tier, but if I'm being fully honest, there's just more fun frog variants out there, especially now that we're doing hop to the top. Like there's clearly a lot of really interesting ways to play frogs, but I wouldn't put it above Amaryllis. If you want to keep it in B tier, I'd put it below it. But I think top of C is where Hero Frogs would go.
I could go either way. Like, yeah, I don't mind sticking it there to start, and as we flesh out the tier list, I might want to move it up. I do think it has a lot of technical plays for sure, but I do agree that the water art development has made this like even more of a eh, lame deck. We can stick it in C. The deck is not lame though. It's really cool. I'm fine with
I do
that.
think it has a pretty I do think it has a pretty solid skill floor, like a lower skill floor for sure. Like cuz I think you can get away with just slamming monarchs and then slamming a miracle. Like any player could do that pretty effectively and get wins at locals on a local level. It happens all the time. I do think the stronger Hero Frog players make a lot more strong plays game 2 and 3. But like that game 1 strategy is the same. Like it feels
Hmm.
like the same for every version of Hero Frogs. And I think the true skill and the true enjoyment or the true like testament to your ability as a frog player comes game 2 and 3 in my opinion.
I kind of actually want to go out of order next here and
Talk to me.
just straight up say what I think is like D tier hot garbage fun. Like I don't understand it. Obviously, people, again, if you like this, that is your vibe. But for me, gadgets, this is like bookending D tier for me. Like I don't
Oh yeah.
understand you if you like this deck.
I'm not gonna argue against it. Like it is the most. It is it's actually one of the few decks that tells you what to do next. There are very few decks in this format that are like, okay, now that you summon this, you're gonna get this, and then this thing will get the next thing, and this will get the like. There's no other deck in this format that does that. There's a lot of decks in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, or like even not modern, but like later formats of Yu-Gi-Oh that are kind of like that. And gadgets is just the beginning of that like +1 little monster train that exists
Yeah.
in Yu-Gi-Oh in general. This particular deck does feel extremely simple. It doesn't feel like you have to make the most insane choices, especially if you're running like Starlight Roads and you're running just a bunch of like rack row protection. You could just slam 5 and summon a gadget, and that's just the game plan, right? Like it doesn't feel like you need to necessarily do too many crazy plays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying like once again, this is not me discrediting any strong players that play these decks, but I can't imagine even the strongest players are like over here working 9 to 5 on these type of decks. Like these are pretty straightforward
Yeah, I
game
think
plans out
it
here.
it's almost like therapeutic, I imagine, for some people to just like turn their brain on and slam gadgets. Like I think in their purest form, which is like, the versions that play like triple smashing ground and like double or triple horn of heaven, and like I feel like the deck exists to like take to simplify your decision making as much as possible, and just like +1 on your opponent. And that is not what I'm about. Like I don't vibe with it. So this is definitely bookending D tier. By the end of this, I imagine it'll be somewhere around here.
I think there's maybe like one deck that I like a little bit less than gadgets, but it's pretty much like in the bottom area. And it's funny, like I don't even hate, like I said, I don't hate gadgets. I just feel like I wouldn't want to play it. Like it just doesn't amuse me as much as other decks exist. But there are versions of gadgets. Like if we're just talking more standard, like Horn of Heaven, Machina gadgets, for sure D. But like the red gadget has a really cool his knockoff KFC version
Yeah,
of
no,
gadgets that I do think is a lot
I
more
agree.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, you're not playing we're talking about the more standard
Yeah.
gadget build. Same thing with like Hero Frogs. Like I think I would put Hero Frogs higher if everyone's on the Plasma Scapegoat version, but like they're not. I'm talking about the more standard versions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna jump in with this fairies, dude. I just want to keep going in order because I don't want to like jump around too much, but fairies are very interesting because a lot of people will write off fairies a lot because they don't see them as often. But I find fairies to be so interesting as a cool toolbox. Like at the end of the day, if they drop Christia, that feels amazing, and they did like their overall objective. But a lot of games will be won without even dropping Christia, so it ends up being this light toolbox deck. So the more standard fairy list of like recruiter fairies to me feels a little bit more interesting, a little more nuanced in your approaches. And because it's one of those decks that also isn't necessarily solved, doesn't have like a solved strong top deck list. I like Chaos Fairies is a thing that exists. There's other fairy builds that have done pretty well, like Tethys Fairies, none of which we know is like, because we don't know which one is like truly like the most relevant one. Like we can have multiple lists still, because unlike Hero Frogs, unlike a deck like Vayu Turbo. So yeah, I think Fairies is in a place that feels really interesting, and really like the game feels different every time you're using it, you know?
So where is your like gut in telling you at the start?
My gut is saying that Fairies, because they are, man, like in a deck devless world, they might be a little more boring, but because they have to play this uphill battle all the time, like this underdog strategy, and play around such meta dominant things like that, it feels like a top of B low A again, like kind of like
Whoa.
Amaryllis. Yeah, man.
Okay. This is gonna be the first one where we disagree because I think this deck is boring. Like I think it's major cope for the people who think that like this is a super skilled deck or something. I think that every deck has skill, right? Like I'm not saying this deck is, but like there used to be some weird narrative that this was like the hardest deck in the format to play or something, which it definitely is not. It's a cool deck, especially the Arcana Force versions of the deck. But dude, there is no way that this deck is more like fun or cool to play than Hero Frogs. That's my take. But if you want
But
to
that's
just like split the
but that's the thing.
difference
That's the
and
thing
put it
though. It
in
depends on
B,
the variant, and I kind of wish we were more specific on the variants, like
I'm kind of
because
the
obviously
essence
like
of fairies, like shining
oh
angeling
because
around.
because Chaos Fairies to me is so sick. It's like one of the coolest decks, and I love that deck. That deck is fun, but it is more of like a Lightsworn engine. It reminds you of like Chaos Dragons in like hat form or in a redo format and stuff. That's like in my head, I can't ignore that. I also kind of love Tethys's like crazy drawing like 7 cards is kind of funny. But yeah, then the more standard fairy lists does seem a little more boring in comparison. But because we don't have a standard list, it becomes like this thing where it's like split the difference, low B. Like
All right. I'm a team player. I'll put it in low B, even though I feel a little. I would just probably put Hero Frogs a little bit higher than that, like this, but we can just see how it shakes out.
dude,
Okay.
if they get rid of water art, I would agree that the Hero Frogs is solid B. But like now that water art's there, bro, y'all boring, dude. Y'all boring.
Yeah. Okay. Gladiator Beasts. Contrary to popular belief, where I think most people would just immediately slap this right here in D tier, I actually think this deck seems kind of cool to be on it. I think people hate playing against it, but playing as it, I actually think it belongs somewhere more in here. I think that GBs they're a toolboxy deck, which I find inherently cool. Like zombies and like they have like a really cool engine, and like every card tutors any card, so there's lots of decisions to be made. There's definitely cool lines. I think a play pattern of like summon GB set 5 is like not the most invigorating gameplay that I like. I do think that basically everybody agrees that the Test Tiger builds are the best nowadays. And I think that those are the cooler variants to play because they actually give you more than one turn per play. Or sorry, one play per turn. So I think GBs are, if you're playing as them, I think they at least belong in the C tier.
Yeah, every GB player would put it in S tier. They clearly adore playing the game, and then every single person playing against it is like so frustrated with it because even the decks with good matchups into GBs just get punished by like so many different things. It just has, but it's because it's this toolbox. It's because there's different ways to play it. So like even if you see like a GB, you're like, is this a Test Tiger version? Is this more of a control version? Are they running like respites? Are they running some weird crazy tech like defissure or something? There's like a lot of different cards that this deck can use, so it makes it a little bit harder to play around these different things. Like I've seen some people running like anti-spell fragrance and stuff, and that like totally cooked me one time. So I can imagine that like as a GB player, you're cooking up your GB deck. You do feel like the world is your oyster. You have a million different ways, a million different tech cards that don't hurt your deck at all that you can just start running, that no other decks can really do, while also simultaneously being one of the best decks in the format that counters so many different decks. I'm with you, man. I do think that like you can't deny it. Like it requires a lot more decision making in the deck building process and in the actual game plan to not feel super autopilot in the way that like a game like a deck like Gadgets would feel, or a deck like later. I feel like I'm already like talking about it later, but like we'll get to Blackwings maybe next, but Like I would put it even higher than Blackwings. That's how much I really do think there's more fun. There's more fun to be had with Glad Beasts.
Yeah.
And like if you're down to jump to beat Blackwings right now, I want to get that out of the way. Like
I think we are probably have similar thoughts. We are haters. We do not like Blackwings here. It's probably shown through in many of our videos. Obviously, I think every deck, you know, Blackwings, like if you're a really skilled player with Blackwings, it's night and day between a non-skilled Blackwing player. But this deck is just the bane of my existence. And playing as it, I'm kind of like, I've tried it and it's just not for me. I don't know what else to say. Albert, do you want to come in here and talk about Blackwings? Because this is kind of your bread and butter behind Vayu.
I mean, my opinion is going to be a little bit biased because my first like actual competitive deck in my Yu-Gi-Oh career was Blackwing, so I have a lot of nostalgia and love for it. So I'm definitely on the other side of the spectrum from you guys on this one. The lines are like a little summon big monster attack, do big damage, so I can see how that could feel a little boring. But I don't know, man. There's just something about, you know, summoning it and like having whirlwind and having collude and playing mind games with your opponent. Like, I don't know, I find that fun and interesting.
so here's like my thing that I wanted to like get out here, because like even Albert's like nostalgia story had an extra little like asterisk on there that like proves my point, which is beautiful. I'm glad you came in. No, I'm
You
so
said
glad you
screw
did
your
like
story.
no
I'm
I'm saying
kidding, I'm
like
kidding.
your story like almost emphasizes my core issue with it, because he didn't say this is like my first like deck that I played with that I'm nostalgic for. It was his first competitive deck that he played with, right? Like the competitive aspect is the most important thing. I don't feel like obviously the like I'm nostalgic for Blackwings. I played in this era. This is my brother introduced me to it. He had all the Blackwing cards. So he also like really enjoys Blackwings for that same reason, right? But it's also because the deck was just so good. And I think ultimately what I don't like about Blackwings is that you can almost tell that a majority of the time the people that are playing it are literally just playing it because they want to win. It's like they're not playing it for like the like a lot of like I'm gonna bet you that a good majority of the people that are rocking Blackwings are doing it because they're so obsessed with winning, and it's like the most winning deck, right? Which is fine. Like if your goal is to win, all power to you. But you can't come up to my face and tell me that like I play it because it's fun. I play it because it's like really interesting and dynamic. Like no, dog, no, dog. It's so straightforward that I can predict the lines you're gonna do every single time. It happens like it's so consistently the same lines. You know what I mean? Like there's like other decks have a lot more random variability to them, or and a little bit more of these different true like like a lot more different plays that can make or break your game. And there's a lot less of that happening with Blackwings. There's usually always a correct play because it's that straightforward. And it's a testament to how strong the deck is that you don't even have to see Whirlwind and win. But if you do see Whirlwind, you're basically like at a 70% chance of winning. And I don't like any deck that's like at that point where there's like, oh, if I see this card, I just win. And it's like a 2 of, and it's just, you don't even need it to win. That's crazy, dude. Like other decks have that same issue, like Jinzo, TK, and Dragon Turbo. Like if they see Fufu, they win, right? But that's a 1 of. And if they don't see it, it's a pretty losing deck, you know? So like Blackwings are just not, I don't like it. I don't like it, and they're boring.
For me, I think it's a fundamental difference of like if I had to categorize like the types of Yu-Gi-Oh decks, there's control, combo, and aggro. Those are like if I had to broadly bucket. And for me, aggro is like the decks that I gravitate towards the least. I really like comboing, and then I like the control decks that kind of like assert themselves over the board and like just like grind out a slow game. And this deck is like the definition of the aggro. It's like the most pinnacle aggro deck in Edison format, where it's like it's not really playing for advantage, it's playing to just damage you and kill you. And I always feel a little unsatisfied when that happens against me, and I don't feel very satisfied when I win that way. So Albert, if you had to put it though somewhere, I would be curious, out of everything you see here, would you just put it in A? Like you prefer this over all of these decks, right?
What we've currently ranked, yeah, I'd probably put it like maybe not high A, but like probably like the end of A, maybe high B for me.
Okay, so maybe because we have to give Albert a voice in this discussion, should we put it in like
do we have
low?
to give bird players a voice? Like do we
Okay,
actually?
Albert. Actually, it's just like a 2 versus 1 vote, and because we feel so strongly about it, we're just overruling your opinion.
And mind you, like I have such a different opinion about Vayu, and I'll explain that later. But like,
Yeah, me too.
the last thing I will say though is that it's also like alongside Gladiator Beasts, which did get docked in my head for and gadgets in a similar vein, gadgets less so. One of the two only decks in this format that are truly like fully archetype. Like they're just fully like
Yes,
you're basically playing the deck. You are
Mhm.
playing the deck the
Konami
way
made your
Konami
deck.
told you. Yeah, and I think that's like ultimately like I love cooking. You can't cook with a deck that is basically already perfectly made for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why Glad Beasts and Blackwings get a lot of flack because you're kind of playing it exactly as you're told to do. And I think Lightsworns will kind of be docked a little bit for that same reason, but the difference is that Lightsworn's a little bit more just like the actual elements that they do are a little more interesting and a little more random. And milling is fun. We said milling is fun. We just know that. But I think that's gonna always dock any deck here points if they're you're playing the deck Konami made you, dude. It's a starter deck.
Okay, we've said enough on this deck that we despise. Let's talk about Dark Gaia. So, Dark Gaia, Marcos, I feel like it's only right if you talk about it a little bit since it's your bread and butter.
I mean, I love this deck, obviously, but I won't pretend that there's parts of it that feel like underwhelming. I do think what makes Dark Gaia so fun in this format is how strong it is into specifically Vayu Turbo. Any Dark Gaia build just feels like it cooks that deck at times. Killing Raikos and hamsters and stuff, that's a fun thing. Ultimately, though, you always have to play rocks, and the rocks are worse. And anytime you're playing like the best version of Dark Gaia just ends up being a worse version of Hero Beat. I think it's a fun deck, and I do really love the deck. And the variants that I love are the worst versions of Dark Gaia, because like the best version is just a worse Hero Beat, and the other versions I like are rocks, and the rocks ones are just bad. But we're not basing it on how good they are. We're basing it on how fun they are. Honestly, low A.
Whoa, that is too damn high. Dark Gaia, I think the only thing that it has going for it is like it's the only deck I can see on this list that just summons like a 6,000 Bungus, and I guess that's like a
Hey,
dopamine rush in and of itself.
bro, when you do it, when you summon 6,000 plus plus Megamorph for game, bro, like
But but I don't know, dude. Like I just feel like these decks like below it are so much more like intricate and interesting in the decision making, and Dark Gaia is just all building towards you slamming Giant Trunade and slamming Dark Calling, and
true.
like I'm
It is a very simplified thing. I think A was very high and generous,
me
and
I
I'm
was
obviously very biased.
my gut was telling me like somewhere here. So like below these like GBs and Hero Frogs, but not above these two decks. Albert, what do you think? Do you have any opinion on Dark Gaia?
I actually like Dark Gaia. Like you guys said, just summoning the big Bungus and like hitting it for a ton of damage. It's just like, oh my god, like let me open these cards every time and just win. I don't know. I'd probably put it in like an A or low or B, high B.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would be like probably like below Amaryllis, above Fairies.
Okay. All right. I'm
I, s-
not
I
that
still
mad
think
at it.
Amaryllis. I still think Amaryllis is way more interesting than Dark Gaia. Like plants are just so cool. But I'm telling you, there's a beauty to like any deck that starts running like Quakimerus or starts running like big piece golems and stuff. Like you're running these crazy stupid rock cards, man. Like you're doing it because you want that biggest bungus possible. You could run like weaker fiends and weaker rocks that have better effects, like Grand Mole and Sangan. But you're like, nah, we're gonna run the biggest stupid bunguses that make our deck worse. In exchange, this guy's gonna come out with like 5,000 attack, man.
Oh yeah, I definitely think the demise like Dark Gaia builds are fun. It's just like just nuke the board and summon big Bungus, hit for game.
Oh yeah, the demise ones are honestly super slept on. I feel like this is definitely a case of not enough player representation because I do think some of the builds can just be so strong and could have a really cool Cinderella run at even bigger events. Shout out the boy Wolf actually topping a side event I think with it. So pretty cool.
Let's talk about Quickdraw because I think that this deck is based as hell. This is like the reason
Yeah.
we're all here. It's one SJC Edison back in the day, and over time, not only have the Quickdraw decks gotten better, but I think they've only gotten more fun. Whereas the previous iterations were Hamster Raiko Caius, Quickdraw decks of the Jeff Jones era. Now they're running like machinas and heroes and plants. I think that this deck just can do it all. It can play the Raikou version, it can go face up and face down. It can play those other versions I just talked about. It can be like aggro, it can be control. It summons like this cool recursive monster that like has an effect that's like no other deck, and it lets you like choose a monster in your graveyard for all these situations. I'm gonna put it out there that I think that this deck is base S tier.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think Quickdraw is peak Yu-Gi-Oh. I think it's also one of those decks that's very fair. It's very good and fair at the same time. Like, it has a lot of weaknesses. It has a lot of bricky issues that do come up, but like when it goes off, when you get the Drill Warrior loop with Dandy, when you get Drill Warrior plus Stardust plus Titanial, and now with the hero package, I think the hero package is such an obvious no-brainer in retrospect. Getting your ability to set up Dandelion more effectively, being able to run Pot of Avarices, one of the strongest cards in the format that doesn't see consistent play in every deck. A lot of different ways you can build this deck too. You can run it with Volcanics, you can run it with like Thunder Dragons. Swifty has been working on a bunch of really cool like versions of Quickdraw left and right. It's still not solved, while simultaneously it's still a pretty strong deck that randomly will see a top here and there. It is the epitome of what you want Edison to be, just a hodgepodge of good cards. Somewhat of an archetype, but it's like a mixture of archetypes together, you know? And I think Quickdraw epitomizes what makes Edison so great.
Yeah, I think if I had to like introduce someone to Edison and give him a deck, this would probably be the deck I would hand him because it's the most fun, and I think it just teaches you like a lot of the mechanics of the game too. So it has like the best of both worlds.
I also think
Yeah.
it gets super bonus points of what you said earlier, Marcos, where the decks, I always gravitate towards the decks where someone had to chef this up and like really cook. Like no one put Quickdraw on a silver platter for people like they did Blackwings. Like this deck is like creative and it's super cool, and any deck that is like people kind of mixing cards together, it gets automatic bonus points. So clear, definitive S tier.
Oh yeah. I mean, speaking on the same lines, are you done talking about Quickdraw? Because I'm ready to talk about Diva
Yeah.
Hero.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
done.
I think Diva Hero, which is one of the more like when you're first hearing about Edison, I don't know when you guys started hearing about Edison, but when I first heard about Edison, what got me really excited was when people like discovered Diva Hero. Like it wasn't really a thing during SGC Edison, and then people realized, oh, this Diva Hero deck is a deck that in retrospect, like, wow, this deck is really strong. It's some of the strongest waters, some of the strongest heroes, and you can make App Zero, you can make synchro plays, you can play Dark Armed, like all these different things were synergized together. Obviously, eventually Hero Frogs were found to be the better water hero deck, but it was cool to see Diva Hero as it is because it's so explosive and it's such a cool like little hodgepodge. It's obviously running the hero engine. Like the hero engine is still the heart and bread and butter of the deck, but it's running malicious, it's running a bunch of tuners, and it's running dark armed. And there's a reason why like we even over here on this channel really like Dark Hero Frogs, because it gives us that kind of vibe of Diva Hero without running Diva, but like the cool plays and cool lines you can do with return and stuff. I think Diva Hero is extremely based. I don't know if it's S tier based, but I would definitely fight for it to stay in the higher echelons of A.
Dude, I agree. I think this is, if not S, it's probably the top of A, and I'm fine with putting it there. It's just so we have an A representative, but
I think it's okay. I think it's S. I was underselling it.
okay. I mean, I'm okay to put it there. I think this deck is extremely cool. It's got major combos. It's got like the dark package, the miracle fusions. It's just so cool, and like the combos are insane. It runs like every broken card in the format as a one of, which is amazing. And when you just watch people like, we really need a true hero to just dedicate himself back to this deck, because when you watch a skilled Diva Hero player, it's like magic. Like it's just absolutely incredible to watch. And yeah, there's a reason so many people like this deck, and somehow I still feel like it's underrated. Like I feel like if a ton of good players started playing this deck and kind of tried to solve the Vanity Fiend issue that it tends to run into, like it could just see more success, because I think it's really, really good on top of being really fun.
I want to talk about because I feel like we already talked about 2/3 of the big three, and I feel like we got to talk about the third of the big three so that the rest can feel, so people can like not hold their breath. Vayu Turbo.
Yeah, definitely S or A tier. There's just so many plays you could do with this deck. Like any given hand, you could like navigate some crazy plays if you have like your power spells and traps and boss monsters. Like I don't know, there's just like such a high you get from like, oh, I opened Greffer, I'm gonna send Vayu, send Plague, send Sirocco, and then my grave's gonna be set up. I have Dad, and it's just like game over from there. You just get such a thrill from being able to play all these good 1-ups and boss monsters.
Yeah. If Quickdraw is why we're here, Vayu Turbo I think is a big part of why we're all still here. There's a reason so many people gravitate towards this deck. I think it has the ability to play like a control deck. Like I almost define it as a control deck because at its core it was like the oppression running deck. It's like one of the best oppression decks in the format, and it's like setting hamsters and Raikos all the time. But then it can also be like a crazy explosive aggro or combo deck when it pops off because you can do Greffer, hit for 1 billion damage. It's just like such an amazing deck, and I think that there's a reason. I think I almost have a hard time like sometimes defining, like I do think it's an amazing deck, but I'm like, is the reason it's good because it's so fun that so many people play it and therefore it just increases its chance of topping, like, or is it just because it's so good? Like I don't know sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's like, I'm with you. I think A tier is where I'd put it, and the only reason I put it in A tier and not S tier is because it's one of the few decks that is just solved. And it's like there's very few decks in this format that are like at that point, but since there's not any room for like true experimentation of the more standard Vayu Turbo deck, like the Sizzle 41, but with the introduction of like Nitro Vayu and different Nitro variants have been encouraging more players to try different versions of Vayu, especially even at our most recent at the T set, the Team Starlight Edison tournament. Like seeing people starting to finally experiment with Escape from the Different Dimension, Miracle Dig, Cyber Valleys, that I think puts it a little bit higher. So if you guys are saying S, like I would not disagree with you on S at all. And I think there's actually more room for it to grow now because people are like people that got their wins are going to keep using the Sizzle 41 with it, but like I think there are people that are more excited to experiment with it now that they saw some of Saucy ideas.
I think I'm gonna ride with Albert on this one. I think it belongs in S tier. I don't know if it belongs in my head. I was gonna even put it at the top, but maybe Quickdraw is just a little too OG based. Like, are you happy with this placement, Albert?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Right in between. These are like the main 3 decks I play most of the time when I play at Loco, so I like it there. I like it right in the middle.
Damn, this is becoming Albert's tier list. How did this happen?
Nah, Blackwing stayed on the bottom. We're good.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Dragon Turbo. So I think I might be the only person here who's actually like played a lot of Dragon Turbo. Like before, I played like Forgs. I actually played like a lot of ladder games with Dragon Turbo and bought the deck and like was playing it in person. I don't know. I guess you get such a high when you actually go off. Even though I'm talking about these decks from like my perspective, like if you're the one playing them, there's something to be said about once you're sitting there across from an opponent and you start going off and like their reaction to how you play the game actually impacts me personally. And this deck just puts people in like a depression because like there's just nothing that they can do and it's so uninteractive when you go off. I just feel like this deck is like a big reason why people don't like Edison format, and I don't think it's particularly like exciting when you just start drawing 1 billion cards. Like I guess it's a dopamine rush, but I think I would rather play it than some of these other helmet decks, but I think I would probably put it pretty low, like D tier to be honest.
Yeah, I think Dragon Turbo is one of the epitomes of like some of the more frustrating decks to play against of combo. There are 3 big combo decks that we're going to discuss that are on this list, but I do think Dragon Turbo is the most solitaire.
And it's the least fun to play, definitely.
Yeah, like it literally becomes like a case of you're only really losing to bricking, and it bricks the most. So there's less of like, not saying there's less thinking, but compared to like Forgs, compared to like the way Gigavise lines can go, I find the Dragon Turbo lines to be a little bit more linear. So it does feel a little more like, hey, if you like playing deck simulators, like you could do the same, you can have essentially the same tournament run and enjoyment playing solo on Dueling Book, like just testing hands, because you're never really interacting. It's a very uninteractive deck compared to the other decks that we're going to talk about. And for
Yeah.
that alone, I think that's why I would also agree with you. D tier feels pretty fair for the funness, and this is definitely on both sides. Like I feel like that's partially why people don't play it, because it's kind of gets like boring pretty fast. Like even I think Hydro Pump's like the last guy, and even he still plays like other stuff. Like he like still
Yeah.
always cooks with other things, because I feel like if you're only playing Dragon Turbo, like your brain starts getting a little like melted.
Okay, we got. I don't even know why we put this here. Monster Mash. I feel like this is kind of a rant. Like, what even is Monster Mash? Can be so many different things. Like, I don't know. Like, do you have an opinion on Monster Mash, Marcos? I almost am just like, oh, it should go somewhere in the middle because like I don't really even
Monster
know how I
Mash
feel.
Monster Mash is kind of based. Like, I won't lie. Monster Mash, I've played it a few times, and there are different variants, but the strongest variant is going to be the Machina version, the machine versions, like any version with machines in general. But, like, now we got Tim Ponce out here trying to do, like, Ultimate Offering Monster Mash things. Like, I think there's still a lot of room for exploration, and it is, like, technically a milling deck in its own way. Bro, if you once you get a taste of that high of, like, hitting off of the Gallus, like, burning for 2,000 off a trag hit. The deck just feels so sick because you're also playing at such an extreme disadvantage. You have access to these really fun and interesting cards that no deck can play, but in exchange, you have to play at a huge disadvantage of not running real spells or traps, right? But I think that's like kind of like this aggro mindset that is so sick. When it pulls off what it wants to do, it's kind of awesome, man. Like I think B tier, top of B tier is still fair because ultimately winning is fun, and because Monster Mash is really difficult to get like strong real wins with, I think that's what holds it back for me, like as a player, because I think it's just really frustrating. You know what I mean? It's very luck dependent at times, and it's very like you get floodgated out so fast compared to any other deck because you can't side effectively. So
Right.
yeah, I think top of B is where I'd put it. Like I feel like if it was in a format where like Effect Veiler is a thing, or more hand traps that can actually stop uh other counters and stuff were a thing, Monster Mash would definitely be like A or S tier. But because game 2 and 3 is such a drag, like 2/3 of the time you're not having fun, you know?
Yep, I'm okay with that. B, that seems like a solid place.
You could put it below. You could put it below. You could put it below Amaryllis though. I'm gonna keep
Oh, okay.
Amaryllis gatekeeping top of B, bro. I'm gonna
Okay.
keep it gatekeeping.
I've been starting to feel a little bit naked with A being here, and so I was trying to pull out a deck I think belongs there, and I'm gonna just throw out an opinion here, and maybe it's irrational. I think I think that Lightsworns is a cool and fun deck, and mostly because like if you're actually just trying to play a game for fun, playing a game of Lightsworn just for casual dueling is just so fun. Just be like milling, like it's got that random like lottery feel, but not quite to the Dragon Turbo like just like toxic lottery where it's like if you go off you just pop off. But like Milling Wolf is dopamine and like summoning JD, and I think especially the rise of the variants that are like non just pure Lightsworn, like I think Christia Sworn, getting to play like Herald and Christia and the fairy stuff, or Twilight is even more based. Like you get to run Sork and Dad, like and hand traps, so you have a little bit more defense in both cases of those variants. Like I think Lightsworn is just I don't quite think it's S, but I personally think it's more fun to play like than any of these decks below it.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, like I can't put it in S because Konami still made the deck for you. But I think of the decks Konami cooked with Lightsworn. I think there's a reason why Lightsworn has to this day so much longevity, so many fans, cards that have seen play multiple formats forever. Like Lila saw play till like I stopped playing in like modern times. Like it was like I love the designs of milling. I love how so many decks can benefit from the Lightsworn archetype in general. But if we're just talking about like Lightsworn as a deck, there's 3 main builds, Twilight being my favorite and the most interesting and the most dynamic. But even the more general Lightsworn builds, they also don't feel solved. Like it feels like some people are on Averages, some people are on Monster Incarnations, some people are on Beckoning Lights. There's a lot of different ways you can play the deck and still get effective results with. And I think that's what makes Lightsworns really fun. Of the fully established archetypes like Blackwings, like Gladiator Beasts, Lightsworn is the coolest one by far. And that's why I think top of A. And the only reason it's not S is because, like I said, Konami made the deck for you, but they cooked.
Let's talk about your deck, Marcos. I can already see your biased take incoming. Let's talk about Chain Beat.
Chain Beat is so freaking fun when you finally get that high of hitting 2 accumulateds, dude. It's making your opponent heavy storm into nothing. Like you're playing this like mind game. Truly, like you know how Albert was talking about like the Clute mind games? That's not real. That's not real, bro. We know what you have. When I set 5 though, when I set 5, that is truly a mind game. And I have won games with like those 5 back rows are all fake, or those 5 back rows are all real. Not a single thing. Like if you hit me as the heavy storm, you'll lose, and they won't slam heavy because they're like, I don't want to neg 3. Like so, I think Chain Beat is a very high skill ceiling, very fun deck, and it's so hard to it's hard to get wins off of at times because it doesn't really have a strong game plan at this point in time, to the point where it feels like you kind of have to main deck floodgates to get value, like Kaikus and stuff. But I still think there's a version out there of Chainbeat that could be really strong. It is a set 5 deck, but it's different than the set 5 decks because it's trying to use like these chain links to do stuff, and it's honestly crippled by so many different things out there. Trap stun being so prevalent in so many decks now has been so detrimental to the success of this deck. But besides like how good it is, I do think there's a lot of potential for it, and I do think that when you resolve those like really cool wombo combos, dodging brain controls, dodging Caiuses, all that stuff, it feels nasty, dude. It feels so sick. I don't think it's S tier though, partially because I just don't think it's like at a point where it feels like if it can feel really clunky at times, you know, because it doesn't feel like I like people have understood like what to do with it. But I won't deny it, man. I'm biased. I would probably still put it in A tier, probably below Lightsworn though.
Yeah, I think this might be one where we need to reel you in a little bit. But I will say the pro of this deck is, in my eyes, is that this is a real dueling deck. It's a deck for a true duelist, because like you're not gonna cheese any wins with Chain Beat. Like, you are in it for the long haul when you play this deck. Like, you're trying to sit down and have like a real match, because it kind of just like it kind of has to like slowly accumulate advantage and like beat you down with its beatdown strategy. Even though it's a beatdown deck, it's not really quite like an aggro deck like Blackwings. It doesn't rush you down, I would say. It's trying to do those like cool plays, like you said, like dodge their cards with Rhinos, things to that effect. I'm more in like it belongs in this middle tier. Marcos, are you amiable to this being the top of B tier if we have to reel you in a little bit?
I can live with that. I can live in a world where Chain Beat's gatekeeping B.
Because I was honestly gonna say lower, but I think
Dude, have you
passion.
played it though? But have you played it though?
I mean, I played Chain Beat Frogs.
Oh, dude, did you had so much fun playing Chain Beat Frogs. Don't even lie to me, bro.
That's actually, dude,
you had the blast.
Dude, okay, so in my head I had it down here. So now it's way up here. So I feel like you've like convinced me. Maybe by the end it'll be up there. Okay, but actually I think we've hit a deck where, Albert, again, you can lead because you have played more X-Sabers than everyone on Team Starlight combined times 1,000. So what do you think about X-Sabers?
Yeah, I think whenever you get home, you probably see me playing this deck all the time. It's just, yeah, to me it's a super fun deck. There's nothing better than getting to hand rip or hand loop your opponent. The strategy of the deck, if you don't know, is to summon 2 X-Sabers, to summon Fall Troll, to summon Gotems, and then you start hand ripping your opponent. But the way you get there is just like, there's a lot of ways to get there, because you have your recruiters with Emmer's Blade, so you can like do some fun shenanigans by crashing the recruiters. You have Full Help Knight, which if it destroys a defense position monster, it can special summon an X-Saber. So there's like all these like cool little plays you could do, and like even though your end goal is always the same, the way you get there is like kind of custom to like the game you're playing. So I don't know, I just always have a good time playing with it. There are hands where like you are just bricked up and you can't do anything, so those feel bad. I would want to put this in S tier because I just have too much fun with this deck, but maybe low A, high B for me, somewhere there.
I think that Sabers is a cool deck. It's almost like you have to kind of stall out until you can get to your big play, like you said. I'm okay. I definitely don't think it's S. I think the fact that
I don't think it's
like
S.
S is like
you guys haven't done it.
It just I've played this deck. I've played this deck. I think like
you dabbled that whole week. Remember that week we were trying to get clips with it.
Yeah, I just think that like I don't know, the hand ripping thing is like it is cool, I guess, but it's not like the thing that I'm always after. So it's like what it's chasing isn't necessarily like that insane for me when you actually get to go off. But I do think it's pretty fun. And then I guess like my main thing is just like when you don't get to do that, it's what you're doing is so like mid. And I know we're not saying like, oh, these decks, like we're ranking them by how good they are, but I feel like a lot of Saber games play out in a way where like you're not doing like the fun stuff, you're just doing the like mid deck stuff. So I'm more like in the let's just slap it an A kind of vibe.
I'm with you, Declan. Though, like, I think you're in the right track of like the issues I have with X-Sabers as a game plan. I think hand ripping is also just kind of like, this is from the perspective of someone getting hand ripped. Like it's just one of the worst feelings in the game and can like turn people off of like the format. Secondly, like I do think the mid game of X-Sabers is so boring. It's just like, that's a recruiter. I can't do anything about that. But if I don't do anything about this, they could summon Fulham Knight and slap my 3 back row. It's also like one of the few decks that has so many spells and trap cards that are associated with it, more so than even Lightsworn, that it really is like, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can build the deck, but you kind of have to specifically run like 15 or 25, like 22 X-Saber cards, including spells and traps, like E-Call and stuff, Godham's E-Call. I just think that the deck itself just feels like it's doing exactly what the boy Konami did, and we don't respect people that besides Lightsworn players that play what Konami told them to play. I think low A is the max I would give it for X-Saber, but I would be like the gatekeeper of low A. Like there will be decks above it for sure.
A is a solid placement.
I probably put it in B. If I'm telling, I'm gonna let the people in the comments know that I wouldn't put it in A. I would put it in like B or even C. I think X-Sabers is very okay.
No, I'm with you, Albert. We can keep it there. Well, but glad you made your opinion known to the comments.
I know. Just in case the comments are like, "Damn, X-Sabers is that high," I was like, "Yeah, I tried,
Dude,
chat."
we're just missing Dark Soul, man. We were one set.
Dude, because when Dark Soul exists, this deck is awful. Like it's actually one of the worst formats like ever in like the history of Yu-Gi-Oh. When X-Sabers were that good, it was like it sucked for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's pretty
like,
toxic.
And
yeah.
so like I can't imagine a world where like, yeah, I'm popping off with X-Sabers. Like, who is this fun for? Like, I guess it's fun for the X-Saber player, but like, but 90% of the time you're not doing it. So it's like that means 90% of the time you're not having fun. I don't know, man. I can't in good conscience put a deck
I'm
like
having
that
fun
in
100% of the time.
I've seen you lose, bro. I've seen you be upset with the deck.
All right.
No, yeah, I rage quit earlier, but let's move on.
I think zombies. Finally, this deck like it all of a sudden zombies are alive. They've risen from the dead. And even when zombies were kind of out for the count and the allegations were spewing about this deck being like terrible, I still think that this deck is so fun. It's so like custom in the way you can build it. The combos are crazy, and it can play like a kind of control grindy style with all the recruiters, but as soon as it pops off, you just go off. You can play Diva zombies, you can play Psychic zombies, you can play Diva Hero zombies, you can play Ultimate Offering zombies. This deck is just so cool. I'm gonna put it out there. It's minimally in A tier in my book.
Zombies are doing what X-Sabers wants to do, but cooler.
Like, I agree.
And it makes me more mad that it's next to X-Sabers right now. Like
okay, zombies, put Sabers in B.
Let's go. I did it for the people. There we go. You can put it above Chain B. I respect it.
It's definitely more fun than Chain B.
Dude, I remember that time I wrecked you when we matched up. Do you remember that?
Bro, because you ran like
fun.
Because all you did was set stuff. What do I do about set recruiters?
I just trap stunned you and then it was over. That was so fun.
Albert, that was so fun for you.
Hey guys, we're talking about zombies. Stop stealing zombies' thunder.
Guys, Zombizzles, guys. Zombies is the most hit card, like the most hit deck on the ban list, and they still somehow perform so effectively. Like Lightsworns are the second most hit like deck in the ban list, but dude, you have Goblin Zombie at 2, Plague at 1, Mizuki at 1. They like literally neutered the entirety of the engine for zombies out here, and yet they still perform because they have so much cool stuff around it that you can do to make it work. And I think that's what makes zombies so fun and so versatile. It's the best recruiter deck in the format, and it's the most fun recruiter deck in the format to honestly even to play against. I always find zombies to be like such a fair deck in a way where if I was playing against a recruiter deck like X-Sabers, where it can feel like really frustrating because you're just like, if that back row's like XYZ thing, we just lose. Like zombies, it's like they have such a strong like mid-game plan, so it feels like you can still like make a comeback or a huge swing. And I think zombies are just are super sick. I'd be okay with putting it above Lightsworn, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, you guys, zombies. I feel like it's the coolest like mid-range deck. It's like that and Quickdraw are like the decks that were the mid game is like the most fun part of the game. Through all stages of the game, the deck can be fun. It can be a little slow at the start, but mid and late game, this deck really shines. So Yeah, zombies, fun deck. You guys should try it out.
I think Norleras is D tier.
What? Norleras? What's your gripe with Norleras? It's so fair and balanced.
I just think that the entire idea ends up being like kind of degenerate in a way where like the amount of times I beat in Norleras players that do the combo, it's like it's so all in and it just feels so like it reduces the game state to such a boring place. I think there's no other deck that does that to the point where you're like, okay, well I hope my top deck's better than your top deck. Like, obviously, they can set themselves up for success by like having Vayu stuff in the grave or having the dragon stuff in the grave. But like most of the time, they're just going for the combo and like with like a few setup cards, like a plague or something. And it's just like this is fun to you, dude. This is this
Dude,
is
so I
enjoyable.
I kind of come at it from a different angle where I'm like, this card sets the game state to where it's the most fun, which is the games that are the most fun are when you've grinded each other down into a top deck war, and it's like that's like pure Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like heart of the cards. And I'm not saying that that is like fun and balanced, like that this deck it's trying to do that, but I do think it like for me like I don't know. I kind of have like a little soft spot in my heart for this kind of play style, even though it's toxic and like stupid. So I'm more of the like this should be like the bottom of C because I think what it's doing is like more fun for both parties than like a Dragon Turbo or a thing.
It's definitely more balanced, that's for sure. Like I do think there's more counterplay to Norleras, and there's definitely still comeback potential for both decks. So like I don't, yeah, I think D was just more like me just hating on like the combo, but I do think like ultimately any deck that can pull off actually using Norleras, which is like kind of crazy. Like the card is basically Chaos and Dragon.
And then you get to run like Dark Creator and stuff,
Yeah,
which is
that's what I was
cool.
gonna say. I have a very soft spot for Dark Creator, and we don't have Neospatians on here, which I would put like somewhere in low A or high B. But like Dark Creator is just such a fun and unique boss monster that very few decks get to efficiently run, and Norleras is probably the only deck that really does. And I think that alone, in good conscience, I can't put it in D tier. It's also just such a unique hodgepodge of cards that it's an Edison original, and I like that.
Okay, let's talk Gemini.
It's the most boring of the decks that I love. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's very linear.
Wow.
I have it down to a T of like there's very clear lines that you have to do a lot of the time, and you're very reliant on like hoping that your Gemini Soldier gets through or opening like a Gemini Spark. Like Gemini Spark and Gemini Soldier are like your two, like a truly normal summon Gemini Soldier or drawing Gemini Spark are like your main true plusing in the deck, but otherwise it ends up just being a very like hero beat-esque, a hero beat adjacent type deck.
Mm-hmm.
And in good conscience, I can't say that it's like that interesting to pilot because like you're always going for the same thing. You're going for a Valk, or you're going for like a Toon Magician, you're going for a Evocator if you need to run over something, but like it's very straightforward what the game plan is. There are cool ultimate offering shenanigans that you can do to make things miss timing and dodge bottomlesses, dodge torrentials, but that's more a testament to ultimate offering and less a testament to Gemini. The Gemini builds with Gigaplant though, like the more mid-range ones that run Giga and they run the level 4 tuners and level 4 guys and stuff, those decks are probably a little bit more fun, and those are probably the more popular one anyway.
But there's like
So
no reason to
those
run those when now you have Gigavise. So like I think they're really rejecting the Gemini beat
Oh,
deck.
there's still a lot of people that like BK Kids Club swears by that list still, and there's a couple people that still play it. I'm very like locked in the Gemini Discord because I still love the deck, but I can't pretend that ultimately we all have the same like idea for it. And I think it's a lot better than people give credit for. This isn't a tier list for its quality, but I do think the game plan is rather linear, and I think C tier is where it belongs.
Okay, wow. That was not what I was expecting, but I tend to agree, even though I haven't played a ton of Gemini. Doesn't
Like I love
doesn't
it. I
really
love
fit my
playing it.
style.
It's my favorite linear deck. Like if that makes sense. Like it's my favorite like where the lines are not too crazy. Because I think Valk is just such a fun, like such a cool card, and I think Dark Valkyria is one of those cards that is just so strong into the meta that it's an exciting card to try to make work, And I think that's why I like Gemini. But otherwise, it's like I can't pretend that like I'm trying to just do the same thing over here. Like,
Alright, so now we finally hit Froggo TK. Maybe someone cares what I have to say about this.
I'll hear it.
But Froggo TK, I have a love-hate relationship with it because it is obviously broken. I think it's the best deck in the format, pound for pound. My real love for playing it came from the learning experience, because when you're first learning it, it's like so rewarding, right? Because like the ceiling is so high. and you really have to put in the work to learn this deck. Like, I'm not gonna to sugarcoat it. It's really high skill ceiling, but once you kind of have, I'm no master, but I'm confident to say I'm proficient in this deck at the bare minimum. And once you're at that level, I feel like it starts to have diminishing returns on how fun it is, especially because like I can't pull up to locals with this deck and expect to have a good time. Like my opponent is just sitting there like at me, looking at me like I resolve Pot of Avarice and Salvages and Moray of Greeds, and it's kind of fun for me, I guess, but it's just like I can't ignore that I'm sitting across from someone that just looks like they want to like just leave the local like as soon as all this starts happening. So for me, I honestly like I think it's like too unfair to be fun sometimes. It's
I think
like
that's
for
a good.
here.
I think it's a healthy way to look at it, and I actually think that if we're putting Forgs in C tier, you can put Hero Frogs in B tier. You can put Hero Frogs somewhere above Fairies, even if you want. I'll give it to you. But and the reasoning is that Forgs feels like you're abusing the fact that Konami forgot to hit Substitute more than any other Frog deck. Like Hero Frogs, I actually think would still be pretty decent, even if Substitute was like at 1 or Substitute was banned. But Forgs would literally not exist if Substitute was banned.
Or
Like you know,
Fishborg,
like,
yeah. Or
like no,
Fishborg.
I'm but
Because
no, like
Fishborg's
Fishborg.
broken.
Fishborg is broken, but Fishborg in combination with Substitute is like the issue. Like the combinations you have with the ability to keep spamming out stuff with Substitute is the broken part of the deck. So I think Fishborg it comes up in like some variants of Hero Frogs, and it's never the issue. It's not like, oh, that's the reason that the deck won. But in Forgs, yeah, like Substitute is the problem, and it truly highlights just the huge oversight that Konami had when it came to the ban list. It's probably the only like there's a lot of really degenerate things in this format that I wish like Konami would hit, like Trap Dust Shoot, but Trap Dust Shoot is generic, whereas Substitute is like frog specific. And I think what Frog OTK was the first time like I played against the deck that I was like, oh, if this deck is popular, I don't know if I want to play this format anymore. Like genuinely. Like
Yeah.
like Dragon Turbo felt beatable. Like it felt like it had more ways to just like if I just summon like a single strong like Vanity's Fiend, like it's really hard for them to deal with that
It's also
effectively
just
without
less
drawing stuff.
consistent. It's just less
Yeah,
consistent. Like
yeah.
this shit is
But
too
this shit
good.
is it's so efficient. It has like you could do like it's so good that people are not even doing like the like smoke screen plan of going into like Dream Frogs. They're just playing like more trap stuns and like they're just playing more like I've seen more Frog OTK decks just like not even go for that like Alistair that the
Hmm.
idea of like switching to Caius and breakers and stuff like nah they're just like let me just put in hate for their floodgates because my deck is just that good. It's crazy. It's such a good deck and I really don't want people to keep playing it because I think it like so like it just feels so bad no matter what deck you're playing. Even decks that would traditionally have a quote unquote good matchup against the deck like Gladiator Beast, it's probably one of the strongest frog decks even into that because you can set up the extreme dupe block that's like impossible for them to deal with effectively.
Yeah.
Like
I'll also just say that the like what it's fundamentally trying to do most of the time with the Colossal Arm is just like it feels cheesy. Like they like patch that shit later where like you can't do
you
that.
can't do
So
it anymore.
it's just like yeah, I think for me it's so fun in the sense that winning is fun and like if you're at a big tournament, I want to bring it because I want to win and if you win it's fun, but beyond that, I'm not trying to play this deck. Like I'm not trying to sit down and play this deck for a for fun game. Like it's just not happening. But I still like it more than some of these other decks because I do think it's cool and it
No,
sides
it's yeah, it
it
still has
sides
more
into another
combo potential.
deck and it's like it can do all sorts of crazy lines. But yeah, I think it doesn't belong higher than C. Hero Beat, he's like,
Yeah,
it's like somewhere in
yeah.
here. I don't even know if we need to talk about it that much. Is it? I feel like
I
it's
th-
less fun than
I, th-
Blackwings, but like,
I think it's more fun than Gadgets, less fun than Blackwings. I think it's like it's one of those decks that you played a lot, and there's like skill drain variants that are even more like this. Is this fun for you? Like it's one of those decks that it's strange. Like I don't want to call it like one note, but it feels very one note in a weird way. You have your alias. It's like, is it gonna be honest? Is it gonna be Gemini Spark? Like it's like you kind of have these like specific cards you have to always like mentally be around. It's just the fact that they're just always spamming out the 900 beaters, Hero Blast recurring it. Like everything just revolves around this like vanilla that it's so goofy that this one vanilla became like its own deck. But yeah, I just find the game plan itself to just be kind of just I don't know, it's just boring. Yeah, I played
Yeah.
this deck a lot too. Like Gemini Spark is a cool card, and I like that Gemini Spark exists because I'm glad Hero Beat exists because it keeps like Gladiator Beasts in check, it keeps Blackwings in check. But like that's the only reason why I'm glad it exists. I think there's just cooler hero variants. I think there's just better, and I think Gemini's is a cooler Hero Beat deck. So and it's even then I don't even think Gemini's that cool, but it's definitely cooler than Hero Beat.
By the way, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna give Blackwings the edge over Dragon Turbo because, like, I would rather sit down and play a game of Blackwings than play a game of Dragon Turbo. Maybe even Hero Beat too.
Yeah, I can see Dragon Turbo being lower.
Yeah,
Sorry, Hydro.
yeah. Okay. We're close to the end here. We got Flip Dragon. This is sort of just like Raikou Hamster, Caius, Debris Dragon. Sometimes Dandelion makes an appearance.
The DEI dragons is what they call
Yeah,
it.
DEI dragons. I feel like this one is just sort of like middle of the road for me. Like I feel like it probably belongs. I think Red Med's a cool card, and this deck is like doing the dragon stuff in a way that's like fair and balanced and fun. And I would probably put it somewhere in like this mid range. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a good mid-range thing. I think what holds it back is like how stupid the future how reliant you are on Future Fusion. Like they still end up running Gold Sarks, they still end up running like essentially 3 Fuse. So their ultimate game plan is still to like do that. But I do think the Flip Dragons has a better mid game when you don't see Future Fusion. And I think that makes it a little bit more interesting and it makes it a little more back and forth. Quackimero Drago is also just kind of an annoying card. Even as a Dragon Turbo player, sometimes can kill you. You just have it out. You're like, it's not dying, and I don't want to like get rid of it. I can't summon Red MD. It's like it's a strange like double-edged sword at times. That's kind of fun, kind of funny. I think B is just fair. It's a fair deck, and it's neither here nor there. It could sometimes be degenerate, and it can sometimes just be like okay.
All right, Geartown. This is like an obscure, like it's more of a concept than a deck because like you can play like Machina Geartown decks, which have seen some popularity recently. You can play the Geartown Frog deck that I love, but as a concept, Geartown is ultra based, probably somewhere in A tier for me minimum.
I would say it's here for sure. I think Big Bungus is always fun. The versions that get around the other ancient gears are also really cool. I think Geartown just like enables a lot of really fun and interesting ideas and concepts. KFC, the Karez version is really sick and still a bit underrated and underexplored in my opinion. Seeing the Geartown Assault Mode by Frog Slicer was such an exciting like month for me. I was just always playing anything with Geartown and Assault Mode. But yeah, Machina Geartown finally seeing some success with Pana. More recently, even topping some stuff with it. Like Geartown is such a sick and based card, and I think Gadgetron is such a cool boss monster in this format because it's not that hard to deal with, but can just sometimes be impossible to deal with. You know, like. It's like in theory, it's like it's very easy to out, but it's like, man, I have this D prison here that is just sitting. That is just like it's just so good into some decks and can randomly just swing in like a humongous OTK with just field spells, and I think that's so tight. I also love the dog, the ancient gear beast. I love beast. I think beast is so sick. Just solo so many decks. Yeah, I like Geartown. I like Geartown variants. I'm a fan.
All right, we got Machina. And again, this is sort of like, I guess like in my head, I'm mostly thinking about Machina control, like not like a Jinzo OTK thing, but something just feels so good that you get to run 3 Stratos in your deck that searches a boss monster. And I feel like it just makes it fun. And there are a lot of different Machina variants. I tend to think that something like this would be more fun than a Flip Dragon for me because it's slightly more competitive and it's like a little more tutorable, so you get to do your game plans slightly more often. I'm kind of like feeling a little bit higher in the B tier, but still not quite on the A level.
Yeah, I'd keep it mid B tier. It's kind of a better gadgets in terms of design, but it's still ultimately Konami made an entire starter deck. Like this is a starter deck, like actually.
Okay, so like maybe below Monster Mash, but
it's like yeah. So to me, like it's a good like it's one of those like oh Konami cooked like it's like Lightsworn. I feel like Machina's as an archetype was not super overly given broken BS. Like they have a lot of actual support, but most of the support cards are kind of bad. So you end up seeing only 3 Machina cards. You see Machina Gearframe, Machina Fortress, and then Machina freaking Force. Even though Force is a vanilla essentially, just to get fortress out of the grave. So in reality, you really just have two real Machina monsters. So that's why it doesn't feel like an established archetype, but I can't deny that that's exactly what Konami wanted you to do. I do like how splashable Machina is, and I think that's what keeps it from like the lower C and D tier for me, because it feels like you could put it in a lot of different decks and it would function. And I love that people are doing that more. They're doing Machina Hero, they're doing Machina Plants, or like that Machina Quickdraw deck, right? And there's now Machina Geartown. So I just think that is really exciting, that Machina feels like just this cute splashable engine that is kind of like Heroes, you know?
Okay, we are almost at the end here. We've got Gigavise, and I think Gigavise is the coolest combo deck between the Frog OTK, Dragon Turbo, and Gigavise thing. I also happen to also think that this is the least broken one, but maybe that's the wrong opinion. A lot of people think that this is the best one or just below Forgs. I just think that the combos are actually super custom for Gigavise. Like Frog OTK is like a card counting deck, and Dragon Turbo, it's like mostly doing the same thing. But Gigavise, like the lines are so crazy with this deck when you actually like I feel like games just play out a lot differently, and the games where you don't just go lone fire supervise on the first turn, they're so different every single game plays out. So I actually have a high opinion of this deck. I think it's very fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually took my deck and like started playing with it a bunch, because now you have a lot more like insight in it. I do agree with you ultimately. Like Gigavise feels like the most fun I've had playing a combo deck, because it has so many different lines that end up happening and so many different options that can drastically like change the way you play. The fact that you can choose a lot of the time, like there's like a 50-50s. There's a lot of 50-50s in this deck. Do I make Titanium? Do I make Stardust? Like, and those 50-50s matter. And it isn't like you're trying to, it's unlike Frog OTK and unlike Dragon Turbo, which are both trying to like kill you. And I know Frog OTK can just sometimes make Stardust with flip flop and 3 dupes. Like, yeah, I know that they can have a control element to them, but ultimately their end goal is that they're gonna kill you. They can turbo out kill you, right? Gigavise is definitely not trying to just kill you in a turn, but they are trying to establish the most broken board in Edison format, which is Stardust plus Titanium plus some type of multiple negate, right? And that to me feels really cool, because you can just randomly OTK, but your goal is to make like the most broken field, right? And yeah, and that doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it just feels like unstoppable. And it feels fair. Like I feel like it loses to itself because it's not as consistent. But even those hands you can kind of play out and sometimes still squeeze a win, which is exciting. So I think there ends up being more back and forth play as a Gigavise player. I wouldn't put it above Lightsworn though, in my opinion. I'd probably put it like bottom of A.
Okay, I'm amiable to that. Finally, we have Flamvell. Flamvell, I think that what you're doing is summoning level 8s, and that's not very interesting. And it's also just so bad that like sometimes it's gonna just feel bad a lot of the times. I know we're not caring mostly about how good the decks are, but I feel like most of the time it's just gonna feel bad because like you're summoning your 8s is so underwhelming. I guess resolving your rekindling feels good in the moment, but I'm feeling D tier. Maybe I could see argument for C, but I'm almost like this deck is just I wouldn't want to play this deck very often.
Yeah, I think it's like you're playing a worse Shura, and I kind of have to respect you for doing that. I think what ends up happening though is you end up building like these decks that are just like worse cat decks. Also, like there's no cat deck here. Like there's a couple decks we're definitely missing here, but I think what Flamvell ends up doing is just making whatever variant of your deck that you wanted to play worse. Like you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I wanted to play like a Gravekeeper cat deck. It's like, yeah, just play Gravekeepers and cat, dude. Your deck would be better. I was like, oh, I wanted to make it in like a Machina Flamvell. It's like, dude, don't. What are you doing? Like, or Flamvell here. Like everyone wants to slap Flamvells on things because in theory, Flamvell Fire Dog is insane, but it's probably one of the only cards in the format that can make a level 8 synchro for one, like a one card level 8 synchro. It's never just one card, because you're gonna get deprisoned, you're gonna get bottomless, you're gonna need a trapstone to be able to do all this anyway, right? I don't know if it's like the most boring deck. I think there's probably variants of it that can be a little bit fun, but like I said, like there's just you're basically splashing into better versions of decks, and I think that probably puts it in like right, yeah, it's probably right below Blackwings, honestly.
Okay, that is our tier list. Does anyone want to have any last minute movement? I feel like this would just make this like more like if I oh god, I can't split. If I could put this here, it would make it a little more balanced. Does anyone disagree?
Damn, bro, you really hate fairies, dog.
Okay, fine. We can leave it.
No, no, go ahead. No, put it there. Put it there. Put it there, bro. George
No,
put
I
it in the
like
deck.
fairies. I like
I like fairies too.
because
Yeah.
they're similar to like sabers where you have to like really manage your recruiter. So I like it.
Okay.
See, that's what I was saying. And
okay.
Declan was over here like, it's the worst. It's like no skill. That's
No,
what he said.
okay, I didn't say no skill. I just said it was cope that people are saying this deck is like the hardest deck in the format to play.
Here, if you wanna balance it, you could put Blackwing at the bottom of C tier.
No. Now we're just
Like, thank God.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is our Edison fun tier list. I know we are gonna have some disagreements in the comments, so let us know what you thought was the biggest thing that you disagree with on this tier list, or if you agree with something and you want to just say we cooked with this list, I would also appreciate that.
There's a few decks missing. If you want to know where we'd put some of them, type in the comments, and then we might respond and be like, we put this there. Okay. Gravekeepers, for example, like not really a deck, but is it fun? I'd probably put that in D tier. Like, I played Gravekeepers enough. It's not that
Gravekeeper's
fun,
catching
bro.
strays at the end of the video.
Sorry, dude. I was here for it, dude. Fine. I'll look up what's an S tier. Oh, Psychics, Psychic OTK. Like that would be like B. Okay, I don't know, but just ask us in the comments and we'll respond. Okay, bye.